At 22, I had a plan, a vision board, and a dream salary circled in my notes. Then a man who built companies, lost everything and rebuilt again, told me one sentence that deleted my entire definition of success. That sentence changed everything. Here it is. At 22, you think you know exactly what success looks like. You've seen it on Instagram, on Forbes lists, in the LinkedIn posts of people 2 years older than you who just closed their Series A. It looks like a number in your bank account, a title on a business card, a lifestyle that signals to everyone watching, I made it. But here's what nobody tells you. The 62-year-old who actually built that life, the one you're modeling your entire ambition on, is sitting somewhere right now quietly rearranging his list of regrets. And the thing that tops that list is exactly what you're sprinting toward. This video is that conversation, the one that should happen between every 22-year-old and the version of themselves 40 years forward. Let's have it. At 22, money is the scoreboard. You don't just want to be comfortable, you want a number, 6 figures, then 7. It's not even about the lifestyle, it's about proof. Proof that you're smart, that you worked, that you won. And I'm not here to tell you money doesn't matter. It does. Poverty is real. Financial stress destroys health, relationships, marriages. Money solves real problems. But here's what the data says, and this isn't opinion. This is 85 years of documented research from Harvard. The Harvard Study of Adult Development, the longest-running study on human happiness in history, tracked 724 men across their entire lives. Different backgrounds, different incomes, different careers. And after 85 years, the data was clear. Beyond a threshold of basic financial security, more money adds almost nothing to happiness or life satisfaction. Almost nothing. But you know what the 22-year-old brain does with that information? It says, that applies to other people. I actually love money. I'll be different. The 62-year-old who chased the number knows something the 22-year-old refuses to believe. Money without a purpose becomes a prison. You spend your 20s and 30s building a cage that's so comfortable, you don't realize it's a cage until you're 50 and wondering why nothing feels like enough. The shift isn't from ambition to complacency. It's from how much can I earn to what am I earning it for? That one question changes everything. At 22, ambition feels like a superpower. Hustle culture told you that the only variable between you and success is how hard you're willing to work. Sleep less, do more, no days off. And there's truth in it. Work ethic matters. Consistency matters. Showing up when you don't feel like it, that matters. But here's what ambition without direction actually is. It's a very fast car with no GPS driving at 120 miles an hour in completely the wrong direction. Stanford research confirms that burnout in adults under 30 has increased dramatically over the last decade. More young people are working harder than any previous generation and reporting higher rates of emptiness, anxiety, and purposelessness simultaneously. Why? Because the effort is there, the direction is missing. The question a 62-year-old asks, that almost no 22-year-old thinks to ask, is this: ambitious toward what exactly? Not what do I want to achieve, but what kind of person do I want to be when I've achieved it? And will the path I'm on build that person, or hollow them out? 10 years of maximum effort in the wrong direction doesn't just waste time. It reshapes your identity, your relationships, and your health in ways that take another decade to undo. Direction isn't the enemy of ambition. It's what turns ambition from a risk into a strategy. At 22, relationships are networking. You collect contacts, you go to events. You ask, who do I need to know to get where I want to go? And relationships that don't fit that equation get quietly deprioritized. Old friends, family dinners, the friend who isn't going anywhere. I'll invest in people once I've built something, you think. Right now I need to focus. The 62-year-old knows what that sentence actually means. It means, I will be deeply, devastatingly lonely by 55, and I won't understand why until it's almost too late to fix. Go back to the Harvard study. After 85 years of data, tracking income, career achievement, physical health, IQ, social class, the single greatest predictor of a long, happy, healthy life was not wealth, not status, not intelligence. It was the quality of close relationships, not the quantity, not the network, the depth. And here's the part that makes this data genuinely alarming. Cigna's loneliness research found that most men over 55 in the developed world have fewer than 2 people they would call in a real crisis. Not 200 LinkedIn connections, 2 people. That epidemic starts at 22, with the decision to focus on people later. Later rarely arrives, or it arrives too late. At a funeral, at a hospital bedside, at a table where the person you meant to reconnect with is no longer there. The 62-year-old's most painful lesson isn't a failed business. It's the friendships they let expire without noticing, and the years it took to understand what they'd actually lost. At 22, you are what you do. I'm a founder. I'm a developer. I'm building a brand. Your identity is your ambition. Your job title is your self-concept. And for a while, that works. It gives you drive, community, purpose. But what happens when it ends, and it ends for everyone? Companies collapse. 90% of startups fail. That's not a motivational quote, it's a statistic. Jobs disappear. Industries shift. Roles that exist today won't exist in 10 years. When the thing you built your identity on disappears, who are you underneath it? Research on retirement psychology shows that men who over-identified with their careers experience significantly elevated rates of depression, health decline, and loss of purpose in the years immediately following retirement. Not because retirement is bad, because they never built a self that existed independent of their output. This is one of the least discussed crises in adult psychology, the man who achieves everything, and then discovers he doesn't know who he is without it. The 62-year-old knows titles are borrowed, companies are temporary. The only thing that survives every chapter, the success, the failure, the rebuild, is character. Who you are when no one is watching, how you treat people who can do nothing for you, whether your word means something. That's not soft wisdom. That's the foundation every lasting thing is built on. At 22, failure feels terminal. A bad launch, a business that doesn't work, being fired, one public stumble, and suddenly the narrative in your head becomes, maybe I'm not built for this. Social media made this worse. You only see the wins, the highlights, the overnight success story with the convenient beginning, and no middle. What you don't see, Jeff Bezos's Fire Phone, one of the most public product failures in tech history. Steve Jobs being removed from the company he founded. Howard Schultz being rejected by 217 banks before a single investor believed in Starbucks. These aren't motivational footnotes. They're the actual structure of almost every significant success story ever documented. Post-traumatic growth, the psychological phenomenon where people emerge from crisis with stronger decision-making, deeper empathy, and greater resilience, is not a metaphor. It is documented, peer-reviewed science. The 62-year-old knows what the 22-year-old hasn't lived long enough to see yet. Failure is not the interruption of the journey. It is the journey. And the most dangerous person in any room is often someone who has only ever won, because they're fragile in a way they don't know yet. Your worst year will teach you more than your best decade. Not because suffering is good, but because difficulty, processed honestly, builds a kind of wisdom that comfort simply cannot. At 22, time is the one thing you feel certain you have plenty of. I'll travel when I have money. I'll call them when things slow down. I'll start taking care of my health when I'm less busy. Bronnie Ware spent years as a palliative care nurse, documenting the most common regrets of people in the final weeks of their lives. She published her findings, and across hundreds of patients, across different backgrounds and life stories, the pattern was the same. Not one person said, "I wish I had worked more." They wished they'd had the courage to live a life true to themselves, not the life others expected. They wished they'd stayed in touch. They wished they'd let themselves be happier. Every single regret was a later that never came. Here is math that changes how you see a single day. 1 hour daily invested consistently into something that deeply matters to you. A skill, a relationship, your health, over 40 years equals 14,600 hours. That is mastery. That is legacy. That is transformation. The 22-year-old who understands compounding only in terms of money, but never applies it to time, relationships, or character, is making the most expensive mistake of their life without knowing it. Every day is a deposit or a withdrawal from the person you're becoming. Here's the convergence. The 22-year-old is right about one thing. Energy is a resource. You have more of it right now than you will ever have again. That is not a small thing. that is everything. The 62-year-old is right about one thing: direction matters infinitely more than speed. The person who combines both, who brings the energy of 22 and the direction of 62, without having to wait for life to teach them the hard lessons, that person has an almost unfair advantage. Wisdom is not age. Wisdom is borrowed experience that you choose to accept before the pain forces it on you. So here is the only challenge that matters at the end of this video. Write a letter from your 62-year-old self to you right now. What would that person beg you to stop spending time on? What would they beg you to start? What relationship would they tell you to repair before it's too late? What version of yourself would they be mourning? And which would they be proud of? Write it, seal it, open it in 10 years. That letter is the GPS most people only discover through regret. Success isn't something you achieve at the end. It's something you either build, daily, quietly, intentionally, or spend your final decades wishing you had.